The year is 1964. The world's fourth largest air force with over 1,000 aircrafts. An army with 800,000 soldiers and over 1,500 combat vehicles. Which country am I describing? Do you know the answer to that question? The country was Sweden, and the 800,000 soldiers, most of them was conscripts, that in some days' time would transform from carpenters to soldiers. In 1964, Sweden had a population of under 8 million inhabitants, so the defense of the country consists of about 10% of the country's total population. Let's compare those numbers with USA today. The population is 341 million, so 10% is 34 million. How many soldiers do US have today? Today the US Armed Forces have 1.4 million soldiers. And most of weapons was produced in Sweden. Fighter jets, boats, submarines, tanks, guns, ammunition. And still today Sweden have a big weapons industry and is world leading in several areas. So why did Sweden invest so much in its defense? Let's start with the beginning. Sweden haven't been in war since 1814 and after that been neutral until 2024 when we joined NATO. Let's have a look on a map to understand Sweden's situation during the Cold War. Here we have Sweden, and on the other side of the Baltic Sea we did have the Warsaw Pact, and on the other side we had NATO. So as you see, Sweden and Finland was squeezed in between those two parts, NATO and the Warsaw Pact. If a war have started between those two sides, they wanted to get control over the seas and the skies as fast as possible. So where did the Soviet side have its fleets? East Germany, Poland and the Soviet Union had navies. The biggest one was the Soviet Union, and the main ports was here, St. Petersburg region and Kaliningrad. And the biggest one was Soviet Union's Northern Fleet, based in the area of Murmansk up here. To stop US to reinforce Europe, the Soviet side wanted to get control over the Atlantic as soon as possible. But if you look at the Baltic fleet, would have a hard time to get out to the Atlantic. They had to pass close to West Germany, Denmark, Norway, and out in the North Sea they would be surrounded by NATO countries. Let's focus on the Northern Fleet. To get out on the Atlantic they had to go around Norway, and here Sweden's dilemma comes in. They would need to get control over at least the northern half of Norway. The fastest way would be to attack through Finland and northern Sweden and take harbors in Sweden and attack through Sweden to Norway. So, how did Sweden plan to defend itself? Let's focus on this area, the coastal area in the middle of Sweden. The first line of defense was Sweden's big air force. After that, the navy, and at the coast, the coastal defense waited for them. So let's zoom in on this area in the middle of Sweden. Why was this area of military importance? Here is a large river flowing into a bay that stretches 50 kilometers inland. It's so deep that large ship can sail all the way. Let's zoom in more. Here in this city you have a great harbor that can be used for big ships, and it's very close to big roads and railroad. And it's only 7 kilometers from open sea. So this area was very important to protect. And how did they protect it? This is 7.5 centimeters artillery cannon. There was a facility up here with 3 of those, and down here one more with 3 of those cannons. And here in the middle they place a facility with 3 of those cannons, 15.2 centimeters. And between all islands and so on there were mine lines. The mines was there in peacetime too, and connected with them was bunkers where they could control the mines. And they had other weapon systems too. There were artillery cannons that was movable, it was anti-ship missiles and so on. In wartime, this small part of the Swedish coastal artillery and coastal defense would be manned by 1,200 soldiers. Let's zoom in on the biggest facility. Here you have the 3 cannons. 40 meters below them in the mountain there are 5,500 square meters, and the facility was manned by 340 soldiers. My next video in this series will be about this facility, if you dare for me, 40 meters down in the mountain. I hope you did find my explanation about Sweden during the Cold War interesting. And this is also the explanation of why Sweden joined NATO. Because after the Ukraine war started, we were feeling that we soon were in the middle between 2 powers, Russia and NATO. Thank you for watching. I will be back soon with part 2 of this series.